We are asking one simple question. Why does Bayer deserve protection, but American families and farmers don't? A country that can't protect its children from corporate poison is not a free country, it's a captured one. In the land of the free, we're told that we have choices about our health. Which doctor to see, which sunscreen to buy, and even whether or not to vaccinate. But when it comes to carcinogenic pesticides, the government tells us you don't have a choice. You will eat it, you will drink it, you will breathe it. They tell us to eat healthy while the fruit and vegetables that we can afford are sprayed with glyphosate that we cannot wash off.
You will eat it, you will drink it, you will breathe it. That line from Alex Clark really hits home because it highlights the total lack of choice we have as consumers. We talk about the land of the free, but when it comes to the basic safety of our food supply, that freedom feels like an illusion. Did you notice the passion in that crowd? These aren't just activists, they're families and farmers who are seeing the effects of these pesticides firsthand. She's pointing out a massive double standard. Why does a multi-billion-dollar entity like Bayer get legal immunity while ordinary American families are left to deal with the medical consequences? The government tells us to eat healthy, but then they permit the fruits and vegetables we can actually afford to be coated in glyphosate. You can't just wash it off like a bit of dirt. It's systemic. It's in the soil, it's in the water, and now it's in our bodies. This protest at the Supreme Court is a desperate plea for basic accountability in a system that seems to have forgotten who it's supposed to protect.
You also said you're running to abolish ICE. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've heard other Democrats and activists talk about.
Yeah.
From an immigration enforcement perspective,
yes.
Who do you think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws?
It's a good question. And you can pause because I just want to think about it for a minute. Go ahead.
We need to continue, though.
Okay. Who do I think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws? Not the executive branch, so not the president. So it belongs with Congress. It belongs with Congress.
Wow, did you see that awkward silence? That was a total deer in the headlights moment for Dr. Ayla Stanford. When she was asked point blank who should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws if we abolish ICE, she literally had to stop and ask for a pause to think. That tells you everything you need to know about the difference between a catchy political slogan and a functional policy. It's easy to say abolish this or end that when you're campaigning, but when you're faced with the actual mechanics of governance, the expert suddenly has no answers. Look at her expression. She knows she's stuck. Eventually, she tries to pivot to Congress, but as the interviewer correctly points out later, Congress writes the laws. The executive branch enforces them. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of how our government works. This kind of malfunction on camera is exactly why people are losing faith in the expert class. If you can't answer the most basic follow-up question about your own platform, how can you expect to lead?
I think that what's interesting to me, as you pointed out, is that the so-called White House press secretary, who's a disgrace, she's a stone-cold liar, had the nerve to stand up there and read talking points being critical of statements all taken out of context that Democrats have made and didn't have a word to say about anything that MAGA extremists have said or done, including providing aid and comfort to violent insurrectionists here at this Capitol on January 6th who brutally beat police officers. The president then pardoned those violent rioters, many of whom have gone back into communities across the country to reoffend. And as you pointed out, one of whom threatened to kill me. He said, kill the terrorist. Where did that language come from? What Republicans use that language? Why did that pardon MAGA extremists, violent insurrectionists, choose to use the language of terrorism directed at me when he threatened to kill me at an event.
Look at the intensity in Hakeem Jeffries' response here. He's not holding back, calling the press secretary a disgrace and a stone-cold liar. But did you notice the tactical shift in his language? He's trying to tie every criticism of Democratic rhetoric back to the events of January 6th. It's a classic political move. When you're under fire for your own words, you point to the most extreme actions of your opponents to justify your position. He talks about maximum warfare as an era we're in, which is pretty heavy stuff. But then look at the clip where he brings up the "kill the terrorist" language used against him. He's building a narrative that the other side isn't just wrong, they're dangerous. But the question remains, does one side's extreme rhetoric justify the others? He's refusing to apologize for his warfare comments, essentially doubling down on the idea that we are in a state of political combat. It's a fascinating look at how the leaders on Capitol Hill are viewing the current climate, not as a debate, but as a battle for survival.
Ron DeSantis unveiled a proposed new map that aims to add 4 red seats in the midterms. Currently, Florida has 8 House Democrats and 20 Republicans. The governor's proposal comes after Virginia voters approved a map that could flip 4 seats from red to. We could see a whole bunch of very partisan members who only care about winning primaries rather than general elections, which means they're catering to their bases and not to the middle of the electorate.
Yeah, and if I'm a Republican, an incumbent Republican in a very lean Republican district, I'm very anxious right now.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a district that Trump won by 10% or less, Republicans, as Betsy said, are very nervous about this.
Yeah.
No, there's no doubt about it. We should just point out this entire gerrymandering war is effectively going to be a wash. The balance of power in Florida right now is 20 Republicans and 8 Democrats. The proposed map that Governor Ron DeSantis is going to ask his Republicans in the Florida legislature, where he has a supermajority, to do is to effectively change that dramatically and give Republicans 4 more seats, take away 4 seats from Democrats. And if you look at these proposed maps, again, just proposed maps, so they're kind of an outline of something that he has released this morning. If you look at the current districts here, which is on the left side of your screen, you will see that Florida is basically a red state. But there are 20 Republicans, obviously 8 Democrats. That would change dramatically because on the right side of the screen is the new proposed maps, 24 Republicans, 4 Democratic seats potentially. But if you look at the area here around.
Check out these maps coming out of Florida. This isn't just a minor tweak. This is a complete overhaul of the power structure. DeSantis is proposing a map that could flip 4 seats to the GOP in a single move. Did you see the breakdown on the screen? Currently, it's 20 Republicans to 8 Democrats, but this proposal would push it to 24 to 4. That is a massive shift in a state that used to be the ultimate swing state. The CNN panel is clearly worried, pointing out how this map basically carves out the Democratic-leaning districts in Tampa Bay. If this passes, Florida stops being a purple state entirely and becomes a deep red fortress for the GOP. It's a surgical approach to redistricting that shows exactly how much power a governor can wield when they have a supermajority in the legislature. Notice the focus on the midterm impact. This isn't just about local politics. This is about control of the U.S. House of Representatives. Florida is the front line of the 2026 battle.
Some of your critics may point to what you said in the State of the State last year when you compared the Trump administration to the rise of Nazis. What would you say to that?
Well, Manu, remember what I was talking about was the fact that a constitutional republic was torn apart in 53 days in Germany in the 1930s, and that we need to watch out for that in this country. That is what I was talking about. And we've seen it, by the way, that speech was given in February of 25. I think over the last year, much of what I said has been proven to be true, that the institutions of this democracy are being attacked by the Republicans and by Donald Trump.
Look at Governor J.B. Pritzker here, standing by his comparison of the Trump era to the rise of Nazis in 1930s Germany. This is some of the most high-stakes rhetoric you'll see from a sitting governor. Manu Raju is pushing him on it, and Pritzker doesn't flinch. He brings up the idea that a constitutional republic was torn apart in just 53 days in Germany, and warns that we need to watch out for that here. It's a very deliberate attempt to frame the upcoming election as a choice between democracy and a total collapse into authoritarianism. Did you catch the institutional argument he makes at the end? He's claiming that the very pillars of our country are under direct attack. Whether you agree with him or not, the fact that a major political figure is using this kind of language on national TV shows just how polarized things have become. There's no middle ground left in this conversation. It's either full defense of the system or total condemnation.
The company that makes Roundup weed killer will appear in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. Bayer is facing more than 60,000 lawsuits, totaling more than $7 billion over claims an ingredient in the pesticide causes cancer. It's called glyphosate. Justices will decide whether Bayer should be held liable for failing to add warning labels on its product.
We are asking one simple question. Why does Bayer deserve protection, but American families and farmers don't? A country that can't protect its children from corporate poison is not a free country, it's a captured one. In the land of the free, we're told that we have choices about our health. Which doctor to see, which sunscreen to buy, and even whether or not to vaccinate. But when it comes to carcinogenic pesticides, the government tells us you don't have a choice. You will eat it, you will drink it, you will breathe it. They tell us to eat healthy while the fruit and vegetables that we can afford are sprayed with glyphosate that we cannot wash off.
Good morning, Anna. Thank you for having me. We're having a march in front of the Supreme Court so anyone in the nearby area can come and listen to speakers that will be speaking there all morning. We're obviously do not believe that we should be giving liability protection, which is really what we're talking about. We're talking about a product that has paid out nearly $11 billion to over 100,000 claims on the fact that this product causes cancer. It's being sprayed on 80 to 90% of our crops across America. When we look at the health of our children right now, we have the sickest generation of children we've ever seen in America. We now have about 75% of them could not qualify for the military because they have such issues with chronic disease, especially autoimmune disease. I reported on this all the way back when I was a producer on the CBS talk show The Doctors in 2015. The International Agency in Research in Cancer for the WHO ruled that this product, glyphosate, is probably carcinogenic to human beings. That's the second highest cancer rating there is in the world. They didn't make a better product. They didn't go back to the drawing boards. They didn't fix it. But now they're pressuring our government to say, give us liability protection. Take us out of the free market system so that no one can sue us. That's anti-American, and we're standing up against it. The People versus Poison rally today.
This Roundup story is probably the most underreported disaster of our time. News Nation is reporting on over 60,000 lawsuits and a potential $7.25 billion settlement. But look at what Del Bigtree says about the actual health impact. He's claiming that 75% of children today couldn't even qualify for the military because of chronic health issues and autoimmune diseases. That's a staggering statistic. He links it directly to the fact that glyphosate is sprayed on 80 to 90% of our crops. Did you catch the archive footage from 2015? The WHO ruled back then that this stuff is probably carcinogenic. Yet it's still the standard in American agriculture. The most chilling part is the push for liability protection. These companies aren't trying to make a safer product. They're trying to change the law so you can't hold them accountable for the one they already sold you. It's a corporate bailout for a public health crisis, and it's happening right in front of us. That was a lot to take in. What do you think? Is the government protecting us or the corporations? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like if you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.